How's it going, everyone? Welcome to Disc Functional Commentary. So, I grew up in the 80s, and like a lot of other kids who grew up during that time, I was a big fan of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I'm also a big fan of Batman. I'm like Kevin Smith in this regard, and that Batman is my favorite superhero. And I think maybe that has something to do with the fact that Batman is just a guy. He's a very rich guy with a lot of discipline and training, but he's still just a guy. He doesn't have any superpowers, and somehow that helps to make him just a little bit more relatable. On today's video, we're going to be talking about a recent release that I've picked up that brings these two properties together, and that is Batman versus the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I heard that this was coming out, and I knew that I wanted to pick it up just based on the premise alone. There exist apparently some comic books and graphic novels where the Batman characters and the Ninja Turtle characters share the same pages, and I guess this is loosely based on those books, but I haven't read those. So I'm not going to be able to compare this to that source material. This is going to be more of a review on how this as an animated feature stands up on its own merits. Now, this could have gone terribly wrong, but you know what? I had a lot of fun with this movie. The movie is a little bit dark, but it's also a little bit fun. And it rides that line between being a little dark and a little fun really well. And I have to give credit for that because that's not easy to pull off. A lot of times when movies or shows try to do that, it feels out of place when it goes one way or the other. For example, if you have a really serious drama that just happens to throw some humor in there, sometimes that can feel out of place. And on the flip side, if you have a campy, slapsticky comedy that all of a sudden decides to have a serious moment, that can feel out of place. So this movie does both while not feeling out of place when it goes one way or the other. And you know that is pretty impressive. It was able to do that. And that also reflects in the way that the characters are designed. The Ninja Turtles, they're not full-on 80s silly cartoon. They remind me a little bit of the 2003 animated reboot, but they're also their own thing. It is kind of a hybrid of different iterations of the Ninja Turtles merged into a single entity, and so that they are riding that line between a little dark and a little fun without being completely one or the other. And all of the Ninja Turtles have their own personality also in the way that they're drawn. It's not just a colored headband or bandana that it allows you to tell them apart. They have their own characterization in the way that they're drawn, in their own personality. And the same with the Batman characters. They're a little bit fun, but a little bit dark. And it allows all of these characters from different worlds to come together into one entity and have it all work. So the Ninja Turtles characters and all the characters from the Batman universe come together, and it just works. And that's pretty impressive. Now, in terms of the voice acting, the Batman animated series from the 90s, in my opinion, still is one of my all-time favorite television shows. And the voice actor who voiced Batman in that show was Kevin Conroy. And to me, Kevin Conroy is the best actor to portray Batman in any medium, whether that be live action, animation, video game. He is able to perfectly pull off that dual personality of both Batman and Bruce Wayne. Oftentimes, when you have an actor portraying the character, they can do one really well, but not necessarily both. I think the actor who came closest to Kevin Conroy in that regard would probably be Michael Keaton from the '89 Tim Burton movie, where he's able to play both Bruce Wayne and Batman equally well. Now, don't get me wrong, I love me some Adam West, but when you're talking about a more serious interpretation of the character, it's really, really tough to beat Kevin Conroy. And now that I've talked up Kevin Conroy a bunch, he actually doesn't voice Batman in this movie. This is Troy Baker that does the voice of Batman and Bruce Wayne in this movie. And the only reason I bring up Kevin Conroy is it's tough to talk about someone else voicing the character without bringing him up. But that being said, Troy Baker does a really good job in this. And actually, he also voices the Joker in this. And once again, when you're talking about the character of the Joker, it's hard to top Mark Hamill for that character voice. But he does a really good job as the Joker as well. And I think he's channeling a little bit of both Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill when he portrays the characters. But even with that being said, he does a really good job uh, voicing those characters and doing those characters justice in this movie. And all the other voice acting as well is really, really well done all across the board. The animation is really, really smooth and fluid. This is particularly evident in the fight scenes. It's all just really, really smooth. And the choreography of the fight scenes is really well done in the sense that there's there's a cause and effect for when things happen, when the way that they use the environment to their advantage when they're trying to fight other people in the film. And it works really, really, really well in that regard. And again, the animation helps to sell that fluid fight throughout the entire film. And so, just really, really well done. Now, DC has been releasing these animated movies about every couple months or so recently, and they haven't all been great, but oftentimes, more often than not, the quality of the films, at least in terms of the animation and the acting and everything, is pretty high. I think that this is probably the most fun that I've had with the recent crop of DC animated movies. I just had a really good time with this movie. It was a lot of fun. And I think that again, it's something to do with how they were able to merge the two worlds and have it just work that is really, really impressive. So anyway, guys, that's all I have. That's my review for Batman versus the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. A lot of fun with this one. I would highly recommend it if you're a fan of Batman or if you're a fan of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but especially if you're a fan of both. Definitely want to check this one out. And that is all I have for right now. Until next time, thank you again for watching, and I will see you later.